Good evening. Welcome to the Wednesday, April 5th, 2023 Conservation Commission meeting. Before we start, the Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and/or the Town of Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaws, Division 6, and any other applicable laws, Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, at 6:30 p.m. All matters listed may involve a discussion and possible vote. All hearings of the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaws, Division 6. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. I would like to thank Denise for holding court while I was gone for my 2 weeks.
I'm glad you're
Welcome back from your trip. And I have to admit, we had more snow and rain in the southwest desert than you did here. So it was a tough 3 weeks. The path in and out of my valley got snowed in twice, and we couldn't leave. They don't have snow plows or sanding trucks, but I also want to welcome Jessica Parr, a full voting member of the Conservation Commission. We are now, for the first time in a long time, a commission of 7 voting members. So thank you all for staying in here, and thank you for stepping up. Now, will you please introduce yourselves around now that I've said, I'll say one more thing. For those that will be leaving us shortly, yes, it is Passover, and enjoy your Seder with your family and friends. Now, introduce yourselves, please.
Autumn Wood.
Michael Mercier.
Denise Schultz.
Sandy Slavin.
Carol Melanson.
Joshua Faraday.
Thank you. Michael, can you read the first hearing, please? I think I said everything I was going to say.
Before we move forward, I need to confirm that the Zoom is working correctly.
Okay.
We did a dry run earlier today, and it was working, but I'm afraid that it's not now. So, if there's anyone out in the crowd who's good at Zoom?
I can, for what it's worth, I'm on Zoom and I can see and hear you.
Oh, so we're fine.
I think we're
It didn't work before, but it does now.
Great.
Okay, well, I'm gonna mute you, and if anyone in the Zoom wants to participate, raise your hand and I will allow you to speak when it's permittable.
Thank you. Denise reminded me, we have 2 continued hearings, 1014 and 60 River Terrace, and Pinehurst Beach Association will be continued, so there'll be no discussion on them tonight if there's anybody here for those 2 hearings. But, Michael, the first one, please.
Okay, certainly. On the request for a notice of intent for Jonathan and Vanessa Sharkey, care of JC Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to construct and install a pier, ramp, and float located on Assessor's Map 20, Lot 719, over Jordan Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. And who is here representing this project?
Good evening, Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
Thank you. All right, Brian, you're up.
All right,
Talk to us.
Sure. So this project involves the installation of a pier with associated ramps and floats. The permanent pier would be 4 foot wide in width, supported by 12-inch diameter piles. The total length would be 96.5 feet. Access to the pier would be by a 4 foot by 15 foot wide long ramp, which would sit on top of the wall on the landward side and meet the permanent pier. Then you would have a 3 foot by 24 foot long aluminum ramp running to the 10 foot by 30 foot float. So that is a description of the structure itself. The total length is about 164.5 feet beyond what is essentially the existing concrete retaining wall there. A couple details about the pier itself. So the piles would be 16 feet spacing on center. We are proposing that the pier, the ramp, and the floats be constructed using through-flow decking, which provides 43% light penetration as per the manufacturer, compared to what you get is usually around 13 to 15% with planks, 6-inch wide planks with 3/4-inch spacing. We would have a total of 18 piles supporting the structure, the ramps and the floats. The nearest adjacent structure to the proposed one is 115.2 feet away, which you can see on the site plan. That is to the north of it, over at, I believe, 21 Over Jordan Road. Beyond that, you have another existing pier at 13 Over Jordan Road. That one is 462 feet away from the proposed pier. If you just draw a straight line from this proposed one to the other one, it's about 700 or 791 feet away if you run along the shoreline. The other closest adjacent pier is at 23 Over Jordan Road, which is sort of around the point there, and that's 690 feet away. So this area very much spread out as far as existing structures go. The project would involve impacts to land under the ocean, therefore also containing shellfish. The piles would displace 14.2 square feet of land beneath the high water line, so essentially the size of this table I'm at. The nearest navigable channel runs through Shell Point Bay. That is 127.7 feet away from the furthest seaward point, which is the furthest seaward pile there. The pier itself would be elevated to provide at least 6.8 feet of vertical clearance beneath the permanent section. So we would not feel that the structure would prohibit the harvesting of shellfish, recreational boating activities, access for fishing or fouling, whatever it might be. I would also note that we did have an eelgrass survey conducted, and there was none found in the vicinity of the proposed project. So in summary, I would just say that this pier does meet all of the requirements set forth in the Wareham Protective Bylaw, and we respectfully request approval of the project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Josh, comments?
On your site plan, you say the existing aluminum steps are to be relocated. Where are you proposing those?
Oh, yeah, so that is part of it. So the pier, the proposed ramp would be right where they are out there today. If you did a site visit, you might have seen them. We'd be just moving them over just to the north of them, so they'd still be able to get down to that beach portion there.
Okay. As far as I knew before the meeting, we had not received a letter from DMF. Have you seen anything from them?
Yes, we got it at 3:34 p.m. today.
Oh, okay.
So I did bring copies of that that I can
Okay, so
pass around.
it would be up to the commission if they wanted to view those and make a decision tonight. As you know, they've been requesting new material a week before the hearing.
Right.
So,
Nope, understood. So,
Do we have anything from the harbor master?
nothing from Gary as of right now, no.
And we do request something from him indicating his support or concerns for this particular project.
Okay. So maybe what I would say is suggest a continuance, give them time to review the DMF letter and receive advice from Gary.
yeah, sure, we're happy to do that. If there are any questions
All right,
beyond that, I'm happy
We'll
to answer
start.
as well.
Jessica. No questions. Carol.
No questions.
Denise.
I just need to hear from the DMF, so if I could get a copy of that, I'd appreciate it.
Of course. Would you like it now, or would you want to?
You could give it to me now,
Yeah,
or
of course.
I'd appreciate it, get it in the file.
Michael.
No questions?
Autumn.
No questions, thank you.
Was there a buoy put in to show us how far out into
Just watch
the
the
water
cords.
this was supposed to go? I did see a marker out there, but I couldn't tell if that was for the edge into the pier or a winter stick. I couldn't tell.
Yes, so there is an existing mooring out there right at the end of where the float would be. It's shown on the site plan. So that was, given the variation of tides and ebb and flow, we felt that was approximately where the pier would end, the float, the furthest seaward point of the float.
So you're just lucky that the mooring was about where it's supposed to
We
go.
are very lucky, yeah.
As opposed to being out there putting something in place so we could see how far out it went.
Yes, usually it doesn't work out that way for us.
No.
But and we did set a stake right at the landward point along the wall.
Yes, I did see that.
Okay.
Thank you for point where it started, but I said, okay. Way out there that I could barely see.
And there are a couple channel markers too, which are way, way out
Yeah.
there. So it would have been the one closest to the shore.
As I said, it looked like a winter stick, but okay. Is there anybody in the audience or online that would like to comment on this project? We are going to continue. I'm seeing none. What's the date of the next meeting, please?
April 19th.
Move to continue to March 19th, no, April 19th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. We are all present. The vote was 5-0-0. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
This goes in here, this goes here. And this one flips over to there, number 2.
Next one, please. Up.
Okay. Up. We all set, Sandy?
Yes, all set.
All right. On the request for notice of intent for Jean Albanese, care of BSC Group, 349 Main Street, Route 28, Unit D, West Yarmouth, Mass. 02673, to remove a failed pedestrian footbridge and remove some stones along a ditch for wildlife passage located on Assessor's Map 25, Lot 1000, 226 Great Neck Road, Wareham, Mass.
Is there anybody here representing that project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Paul Mancuso. I'm a wetland scientist with the BSC Group. Can you hear me clearly?
Okay, Paul, can you spell your last name for the people doing the minutes?
Yep, Mancuso.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Anybody else representing this project?
Yeah, I will be representing. I'm trying to share my screen. It says the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me see what I can do for you here.
Is there something other than the plans we have that you want to show us?
I was mostly going to show the plans. In the notice of intent we submitted, we had a couple photographs, which I was going to flip to just to give a visual, but plans should be good enough.
I can share those. I'm not sure how to make you able to share, so let me pull those.
Yep, that's fine.
What would you like to start with?
The plan, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see your plan.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect zoom. Yeah, that's all I need to see. Okay, so yeah, again, my name is Paul Mancuso, and I'm presenting the proposed project at 226 Great Neck Road, which is the Mass Audubon property, Great Neck Wildlife Sanctuary. So there are two parts to this project, one sort of on the left side of the screen and one on the right. I will begin with the part on the left, which is the removal of a wooden pedestrian bridge that has sort of been failing and fallen apart. So Mass Audubon used to have a hiking trail that used that pedestrian footbridge to cross this little ditch connected to a man-made pond. and the bridge is sort of failing. They have tried to close the trail by placing barriers in front of the bridge, but people just have been going around it and using it anyway. And so they would like to remove the bridge as well as a cracked, non-functional pipe beneath the bridge, which has become filled with gunk and it's cracked in a whole bunch of places. It's not really functional at this point. They would like to remove the bridge and the non-functional pipe. And then the hash area is where they are proposing to plant some native species, native shrubs and ground cover, just to sort of further discourage people from walking through that area. And so that's essentially what they're proposing on the left side of the screen. On the right side of the screen, right below the little hand cursor, there's a drainage ditch that connects to Bass Creek, which drains out to Widow's Cove. The ditch is lined with stones that were put back there long ago. And so essentially what we are proposing to do is in 6 different sections along the stone-lined ditch, we would remove about a 3-foot wide section of stones. We would regrade that area and then it would be stabilized with jute netting and native grasses. And this would allow native wildlife, in particular turtles, to exit the stream. Because right now, if turtles swim up into that stream, there's little vertical rock walls on either side, so there's no way for them to get out or in this location. So it's essentially just 6 little areas along the stream where they would propose to remove about a 3-foot wide section of rock and then grade that so that it's more of a gentle slope rather than a vertical slope so that the turtles could climb out of the stream. And so that's essentially it. We've got a little cross section up in the top left showing, I guess, a detailed view of what we're proposing as far as removing the stones. Say on one side you remove the stones and then we regrade it so that the turtles would have a gentle slope to climb out on. And again, that would be stabilized with jute netting and native grasses. So that's about it. At this point, if the commission has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Josh?
I'll start with the easier part of the project, the removal of the stones at the man-made drainage ditch. Is that proposed to all be done by hand?
Yeah, I believe the bridge can be done by hand. We were thinking of using a small backhoe for the other side, just because the rocks may be heavy and dismantling the wall. That would kind of be necessary. But yeah, the bridge removal can be done by hand.
Okay, what about the drainage ditch? That you think you need a machine to do that?
Yeah, they were thinking of using just a small bobcat, small backhoe, just to remove the rocks and then to grade the area if necessary.
Okay. Moving on to the larger part of your project, which is the removal of the bridge and that culvert. There's been a lot of concern about the removal of the culvert and what that will do to that man-made pond. You have some soundings of how deep the pond is, right along the bank of the bridge. Do you have any information about how deep the pond actually is?
I mean, I waited, when we had our survey team out there, I waited out my waders to where you see the elevation, so spot shots from the pond, but we didn't go across the entire pond as it gets a little deeper. But when we were there on site, beneath the bridge is dry. So when we remove the bridge and the non-functional pipe, we don't expect it to just like water to rush out and drain out of the pond. It only on like really large storm events might water flow out of the pond there, and then maybe on like a really high storm tide, you might get water flowing up in from the bay. But we are not expecting the pond to drain if that's what your concern is.
Yeah, I would say that's the major concern about, people who access the site and, some of our members of the commission is that the man-made pond would cease to exist without the culvert being there. Is there any elevations to support the removal of the culvert not having that effect?
I mean, I'm just looking at the plan. So we've got the inverts on that pipe are 7.9 and 8.1, and I believe the Soundings in the pond are more like 1.0. So the pond is much lower than the culvert, so removing that will not, the water won't flow straight out of the pond. There will still be, the pond will still remain as a pond. I mean, that's a difference of 6 feet
Okay.
between the bottom of the pond and the bottom of the culvert there.
Yeah, I would say that was one of the biggest concerns that I was aware of. As far as any wildlife living in the pond, did you see anything when you were out there with your waders?
It was very covered in algae. There were definitely some Canadian geese in there. There may have been a couple ducks, but I didn't notice anything besides that. No fish. I didn't notice any invertebrates or crabs or anything like that. No frogs that I saw. There likely are some, but
I think that continues my question, Sandy.
Okay. I'm going to start with Denise.
I got contacted by several people on this project. They had a concern starting with the abutter notification. They would like it verified that it was done properly and that all the abutters had been notified because they don't feel that the verification was correct.
Yep, I can, I can't do that right now, but if we want to continue, I
Continue
can
it,
look
yeah.
into that.
So did he ever answer the question as to how deep it was?
He said there's an elevation difference of about 6 feet.
6
So I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your opinion, removing the culvert would not have an effect on the pond, only in extreme rain events where it would top over.
yeah, the bottom of the pond is approximately 6 feet below the bottom of the culvert. And so if we move the culvert, that would leave 6 feet of water. But yeah, after large storms, I believe the pond level may rise and flow under that bridge, but currently it does not. And so removing the culvert won't really have any effect on the pond itself. It's only after large storm events that water may flow out of the pond and through that drainage ditch.
And the removal of the pipe does not do anything to the pond shrinking?
No. Yeah, I mean, every time I've been on site, the pipe is non-functional. It's cracked. It's full of sediment and debris. And every time I've been there, there's no water actually under the bridge. It would only be after like a large rain event that if the pond level rose, that water may flow out of the pond, not the drainage ditch, but then it would return back to its normal level.
Okay, in reference to the turtles, have you been contacted there's a group that actually works in town, the turtle group, that goes out and marks where the turtles are, where their eggs are. Have they indicated that there's an issue with turtles in the area that you're planning on removing rocks and putting in something easier for them to climb? I mean, the turtles have been going to
I'm
and
not
from
familiar
there.
with the group, no.
Okay, because the turtles have been going to and from there. I don't imagine that there's really a turtle issue. Is there really a turtle issue? Or are you just using the turtle to remove the culvert?
The culvert is sort of separate from the turtle issue. The turtle issue is more down in the drainage ditch,
So-
where it's a stone-lined drainage ditch, and it's basically vertical walls along the stream where if something was in there, there's no way it could climb out.
And what is
So
the
we
purpose
remove
of this
small
drainage? What is the purpose of the drainage ditch?
Takes the water from the pond.
So it takes the water from the pond.
It gives, the water flows out of the pond down this drainage ditch.
Okay.
It connects to, on Google Maps, it's called Bass Creek, which flows into Widow's Cove. And so I believe that drainage ditch may receive some tidal influence. The wetlands sort of at the mouth of the channel or drainage ditch consist of salt marsh vegetation. So I believe there's some tidal waters coming into that drainage ditch, but either way, the idea with the turtles is just removing small sections of that stone wall so that if there was a turtle or some other wildlife in there, they wouldn't have a vertical wall on either side of them where they could not exit the stream. They would have a few sections on either side where they could climb out.
All right, but as I'm saying, I don't know if there's really an issue with the turtles in that area, because you haven't contacted any, or been contacted by any of the turtle groups? Is that correct?
I'm not sure if anybody from Audubon has worked with the turtle groups in town, but this is, they came to us with the project and we are working to help them permit it. So I believe that this is their observations that they would like to remove the small section of stone to help the wildlife that's in there.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody at Audubon has been in contact with the turtle groups in town, but
Okay.
this may
And that
be
in
more based
reference-
off their observations. I couldn't say for sure.
Okay, and the reference to the pond, the only thing living on the pond are ducks and geese, but I'm assuming that there's other mammals that use that pond. Is that correct?
I'm sure the surrounding wildlife uses that pond for sure. When I was there, I did not do any kind of survey for other animals, but I know there were geese in there. There may have been ducks. It would not surprise me if there were some frogs living in and around the pond. But as I said, the pond is going to remain. The pond is not going to dry up. It's not going to drain out. You'd have to like dredge beneath the bridge for that to happen. We're just proposing to remove the pipe that is approximately 6 feet above the bottom of the pond and the wooden bridge that is sort of falling apart.
All right, thank you. That covers basically the people who had gotten in contact with me, with their concerns were at the time.
Michael?
Yes, before I begin my questions here, I am a member, obviously, of Conservation, so in a large part, I do want to support anything that's going to help turtles or other animals or so on. But I do have some questions and concerns about the wall as well. So first of all, how are we going to determine what sections of the wall, or how many sections of the wall are going to be removed?
So I believe we proposed 6 on the plan, and when the work is done, someone from Audubon will be out there and they will pick whichever sections seem more appropriate. Obviously, they will space them out there, trying to provide, I guess, the access points out of the stream maybe equidistant, but if there's certain sections of the wall that may be easier to remove, they would choose that first. But they don't have specific set spots on the wall where they need to remove from this area, but pretty much just three sections on each side of the stream, equidistant to provide access points in and out of the stream.
Okay, because I asked.
I mean, only about 3 feet wide each area.
Okay, because I do ask that because this wall, there are walls in that area that do go back hundreds of years, so there could be some historic issue, and obviously we're not the Historic Commission. Have you or Audubon contacted the Historic Commission or not?
I have not. I could check and see if the Audubon has looked into that, but that we have not looked into that.
Okay, thank you.
Carol?
No questions.
Jessica?
The proposed removal of this,
And pull it closer.
Nope, hit it again.
Hit it again.
Now it's on.
No.
hear me?
I can hear you softly if you could speak a little louder.
Okay, how about that, better?
Yep.
Okay, the proposal to remove the stones from the wall, who said, so do we know that this change will make a difference, that it'll be a meaningful difference and have an impact to be able to accomplish the goals as set forth?
I mean, I have a couple pictures of the wall. They're not very tall. They're maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet tall out of the water, and it should be a fairly simple process to remove the stones and grade it so it's a gentle slope. I think it should be a fairly simple process, and the idea is just that will prevent, I mean, right now the walls are preventing wildlife that's in the stream from getting out. At the bottom of the notice, we've got the photo of the Yeah, so I mean, we would just remove maybe a 3-foot wide section of rocks in a few areas along each side of the stream. It's not going to be much grading that's required, but just rather than have a vertical face there, there would be a gentle slope so that the wildlife can get in and out of the stream. And we would stabilize that with a jute netting and plants with native grasses so that no erosion occurs or anything.
I guess my question is a little bit different. Is there anyone, I'm not a turtle expert, is there anybody who has said this is a solution, there is an actual problem, number one, and two, this proposal is an actual solution that would make a meaningful difference as opposed to just a guess?
I believe observations were made by the Audubon Society. This picture doesn't show, but on the side of the stream where the Great Neck Wildlife Sanctuary is, they've done a bunch of invasive work along there, and so there's portions of the stream that now the stream is more visible, and I guess they must have seen animals, specifically turtles, in the stream, and so they wanted to do this based on their observations at the property. I don't know if this specific thing has been done before. It just seemed like a fairly simple approach, and I mean, obviously, a turtle can't climb a vertical wall. You make a gentle slope, they should be able to get in and out of there more easily. I'm not sure that this has been done before. We don't have like a paper saying that this will help, but in theory, it should work.
Thank you.
Autumn.
Hi, thank you. I do want to make a note that there is a turtle project called the South Coast Terrapin Project. That is one of the active ones in our area. So one of my questions I have for you is, where are the rocks being displaced when they're removed from this wall?
That's a good question. I believe they would just be brought off site. I think there's a bunch of stone walls around the property. They may put them at the end of one of the existing stone walls, but I guess I had not discussed a plan for the rocks, but we could, if there's something that they would obviously be disposed of in the upland or placed somewhere in the upland. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you specifically the plan for the rocks.
Okay. And then just my other, I guess this is more of a statement. I do have concerns that once the rocks are removed, it is going to expose some of the root systems of the surrounding land, and it's going to weaken the soil, so there's going to be some exposure there. Do you know if there's any plans to reinforce the area or monitor the area for additional erosion?
Well, yeah, so the areas where they remove the stones, they would install jute netting, which is erosion control. You put it down over the ground, and that helps stabilize the sediment. And then we would also seed the area. The jute netting is temporary stabilization. I mean, it can stay there. It's biodegradable. But then as the plants come in and their root systems established, that would further stabilize the area for the long term.
Josh, will you put the plan back up into the upper left corner where it has the description of how that slope will be replenished? Yeah, I don't know whether or not we can read that, but that's the plan to handle the removal of the rocks and the handle the slope. I don't know if you can see it that far away, but that they do have that on their plan. No indication where the rocks will go when removed, but that's the ground to be graded in a 3-to-1 slope for turtle migration. Anything else?
Oh, that's it, thank you.
Okay, I will start. If you're going to remove the rocks 3 feet, several places along this ditch, how will the turtle know that it's got to go up or downstream 3 feet to find an exit point? Why aren't you removing rocks on both sides of the ditch opposite the other, so if a turtle comes down one side, he just goes across the stream and up the other side, as opposed to swimming along to find where there's another break? I'm just surprised. I thought the breaks would be opposite each other.
I get what you're saying. I think that idea could be fine. I don't think that the Audubon would be opposed to that. We just spaced them out so that you pass them on the right, and you pass them on the left, you pass them on the right, and so there are more access points, I guess, along it. if we just did it that way. I mean, I believe that the Audubon would be fine with that if you prefer that. I get what you're saying, because then you could go from one side to the other, straight across.
I can
and
just
not-
see, I'm sorry, turtle, take a right. No, take
Right.
a left. And it's just as opposed to just swim across the ditch, okay. That's just a comment. I was surprised to find it staggered like that because they're on different sides of the ditch. Therefore, it didn't make any difference whether the same location opposite each other would have been used as opposed to staggering it. Just a observation. Now, the hearing was for Lot 1,000. When Paul went to the assessor's department, he asked for map 25, lot 1,000, all the butters within 100 feet, and that's what he received. Yes, the Mass Audubon, it does contain more lots than this, 1,000, but 1,000 was the one in the hearing, and that's what the abutter notices went to. Now, to the pond. It is the only freshwater pond in the area for all the critters, muskrats, deer, all the skunks, anything. It's a freshwater pond. Yes, it is a man-made pond. I have no problem with removing the bad bridge. I have a problem with disturbing anything under that bridge. I went there. There was water flowing through this pipe that's there now. There was water flowing to the side of the pipe because the water in the pond was high. There was water flowing through a PCP pipe just down from the bridge, again, relieving the higher water level in the pond. If we move the bridge, nothing under that bridge I think, should be disturbed, not even the broken branch that's sitting underneath there. It all becomes part of what's been naturally developed to help with the water level of the pond. There was water flowing through that pipe when I was there. Yes, on a drier day, may not have been, but it was working, not fast, but it was working. So I have no problem with removing the bridge, but not touching anything under the bridge because I don't want to disturb the flow that has been established for water coming out of the pond. The planting of the approaches to where the bridge is now, I have no problem with the native planting on either side when that bridge is removed, that walkway is removed. I think I took a look at the type of plantings that were being proposed, and I did not have a problem with the species that were being considered for shrubs, herbs, and grasses on it. Trying to think, is there anything else I want to say? I still can't ask a turtle turn right or turn left in order to get out of the ditch, but that's another point. Now, is there anybody on the audience would like to comment on this project that hasn't, that would like to? Please come forward and identify yourself. And we'd ask you if you could hold it to a couple minutes, we would appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Paul Taggart, and like you had said, I am concerned with the pond too, being it's the only freshwater pond there. And there are many animals that live in the pond. I know when they went there, it was October 20th of 2022, and so the pond was drier. But with all the winter and everything, there's a lot of water, and as you had stated, the pipes work fine. The terracotta pipe runs into the marsh and goes down Bass Creek. The white PVC pipe is there so the pond does not breach, so it doesn't go over its banks. I have pictures here, if you'd like to see, of all the animals that live in the pond and use the pond. I am concerned about the pond as well.
Okay.
And the stone ditch is only about 15 feet long, and the turtles have been crossing different parts of this for years, they don't have a problem getting over the area.
Okay. Thank you. Say hi to your mother for us. Yes. We miss her on the board. Yes. Anybody else? Anybody online?
Great question. I'm gonna stop sharing. If anybody online would like to talk, I would say raise your hand and I'll be able to unmute you.
Okay, do we want to ask for more information about the ditch and the mechanism for turtle crossing? Yes. Do you want to continue for waiting for more information, and what would you like for information?
Yes, I'd like to continue so that we get more information on the turtles.
Would like to have a contact made with some of the organizations that support the terrapin? Turtles, and a response from them as to what they think about the modification to the ditch regarding turtle crossing.
And also Mike brought up a historic issue.
Well, it's not
ours,
Historic
but
Commission deals with houses more than 75 years old, which is not this. So it's hard to believe that Mass Audubon didn't do some type of archaeological survey regarding the area and Indians. But I think Paul, we're looking for some turtle information.
Yeah, I'd be happy to contact the Terrapin Town and speak with them and get their thoughts on the work on the drainage ditch. As far as the pond and the pipes beneath the bridge, as I said, the bottom of the pond is 6 feet below those culverts. Removing those pipes is not gonna cause the bottom 6 feet, the 6 feet of that pond to drain out. It would be, it's 6 feet below the ground level, so it's not going to, moving those culverts is not gonna drain the pond.
Well,
So it'll still be a pond. I understand that at high water levels like you guys have seen recently, water would still be able to flow through that ditch, just not, the pipe would not be there.
What I would be concerned about disturbing the soil under the bridge by removing the pipe and causing a fairly fast release of water from that pond, especially now where the pond is so high. You'll probably go at least 6 to 8 inches below the surface in order to move that pipe. And I would be concerned about the rush of the pond and the silt debris down the ditch to the cove. That's just my concern. You would be disturbing something that doesn't need to be disturbed. I don't think it hurts anything keeping the 2 pipes that are there.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, since we're gonna need to discuss with the Terrapin Group in town, that's fine, we can continue, and I hear what you're saying, and I would like to discuss with our client at the Audubon about what they think about potentially leaving the pipes and just removing the bridge, and then at, I guess, the next hearing, we can sort of follow up with what I've heard from the Turtle Group, and if we have any additional thoughts, or if we can provide any additional information to prove that removing those pipes will not negatively impact the pond. There may be a strategy where we could remove them when the pond water level is lower, so that if the pipes were removed, water would not rush out of the pond at that time, and it would have some time to stabilize, I guess. But I hear your concerns, and they're valid, and I guess at this point, I'm perfectly okay with continuing and getting the information from the Turtle Group and discussing with my client about the pipes.
And what will happen to the rocks if they're removed?
Yep, I'll get that information too.
Nothing else? Someone make a motion to continue until 4/19?
Motion to continue until April 19th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
500. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On the request for notice of intent for Samuel and Margaret Gray, Environmental Consulting and Restoration, LLC, P.O. Box 4112, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 02361, for treatment and removal of non-native invasive plant species, planting of native species, meadow maintenance, and vista pruning located on Assessor's Map 31, Lot 1A, 41 Bourne Point Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here representing the project?
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes from the ECR. Along with me this evening is Sam Gray and Jerry Gray in the audience. We've submitted a notice of intent for a vegetation management plan at the Gray's property at 41 Bourne Point Road. We were in front of the commission a couple weeks or so ago for a similar project to the west at 11 Bourne Point Road for a similar vegetation management plan, if you remember. The property at 41 Bourne Point Road, I'll let Josh pull up the plan.
Okay.
Thanks for
Yep.
pulling that up. Contains several wetland resource areas. There's a bordering vegetated wetland, a coastal dune, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the 100-foot buffer zone. The number 41 is the property to the left side of the screen. It's got the dock extending into the bay. You can see the driveway that extends down to the dock, and there's somewhat of a maintained kind of meadow area leading into a forested buffer zone before you get to the wetland resource areas. As you can see, the green is the bordering vegetated wetland to the west, coastal dune, and back to a bordering vegetated wetland. What we're looking to do is to perform vegetation management activities within the buffer zone and outside the 30-foot Conservation Commission's no-touch zone. We would be within land subject to coastal storm flowage. The vegetation management proposal is to identify and remove invasives. There aren't a significant amount here, but we'd like to manage those before they become more of a nuisance. There's also vista pruning proposed to allow some limited views to the bay. And there's also revegetation with native plant species. Once we remove the non-natives, we reintroduce with native species, and we've included a list of species that would be acceptable that we could pick from. The meadow area that's within the buffer zone that's maintained would be included as part of this project as a meadow maintenance, so that we cover everything within the 30 to 100-foot buffer zone and within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's really just to maintain and enhance the property. We're not looking to do anything that would be out of character to this area. The Grays have maintained this in a natural state for many years, and they're just looking to do that in the future, but make sure that we have a permit and agreement with the Conservation Commission. So that's a broad brush of what we're looking to do, and I can get into further detail if you like, but I'll leave it at that for your questions.
Thank you. Sam, anything to add before I ask anything to add?
Not really.
Okay.
Thank you.
Josh?
Brad, can you speak a little bit more to the vista pruning, how you accomplish that goal, and just kind of general overview of vista pruning?
Sure.
Would be good for the commission.
Sure. What we're looking to do is we're not looking to remove trees within that buffer zone. We're really just looking at opening up limbs and some filtered views. It's not something that's, as you can see, the majority of the trees that are landward of the buffer zone would be an area that kind of blocked the view anyway. We'd be doing some vista pruning in there as well, but as you move further down towards the bay within the buffer zone, it's more of just some limb pruning and vista views. It's not something where we'd be needing to top trees and do extensive work. And you can see that the driveway that comes down along that kind of western edge, it's already open through there as it is.
Other than that, I think this is a good project.
Jessica, questions?
No questions.
Carol?
Have you already identified invasive species on the property?
Yes.
What do you have there?
There's autumn olive, there's some Morrow's honeysuckle, a very minor amount of multiflora rose, a little bit of oriental bittersweet. Nothing that's overrun, but if we can get a handle on it now, it helps.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Denise?
Carol covered my area that I wanted to find out more about with the invasives. I don't know how you ever plan on beating these things. I mean, you remove an invasive, a bird flies over, and you've got another invasive planted. It just is a lot to try and deal with. The vista views, where are you looking from? I don't understand what you're trying to, it looks like
Sure,
it's a
that-
wooded lot, and where would you be?
So the Grays live up to the north on the other side of Bourne Point Road. And they're up on the hill overlooking the bay.
Okay.
So it's just some filtered views through the,
I get it now.
From their front
woodland.
yard.
From their front yard. So they would be just cutting the branches in through here.
oh, I'm going to, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and you covered that there's no tree removal, you're just cutting branches to give
Right.
yourself, okay. All right, thank you.
Michael?
No questions, thank you.
Autumn?
Hi, do you have an estimate of how much of the vegetation is currently invasive?
I'd say less than 20%.
Yeah, that's all.
And to get to Denise's point, it's a management, because we're always going to have to manage. So but once we get it to a point where it's out, there will be ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
All done by hand?
Yes.
You said upon cutting, the stems will be painted with herbicide to prevent stump sprouting
Correct. Of the invasives.
of the invasives.
Right.
I did visit the site. I did stand under the deck. I hope you're not going to touch that huge rhododendron to the left. That is gorgeous.
We are not. I planted that, if you can believe it or not. It was only about this big. It's grown a little.
To me, that's your biggest vista inhibitor. Most of the deciduous trees that I'm seeing down the slope toward will be the ones that you will be pruning on, correct?
Yes.
About a few, 10 feet from the top or something like that? You're not going to go much, you're not going to take them down, you're just going to,
Right, just some of the limbs, just to open up some views. It's not, and there's already a pretty, I don't know, 15-foot-high shrub layer, so
yeah,
it wouldn't be any need to go lower than that.
okay. So you won't be expanding the meadow, you'll just be maintaining what has been creeping into the meadow. Is that a good way to put it?
Yes.
There's a specific line between where the meadow stops, and the trees and brush start. So you'll just be maintaining that line.
Correct.
Okay. The limb pruning, the vista pruning, most of the types of the trees will be the deciduous ones that you will be topping, so to speak.
Well, limbing,
your vista.
we're not looking to,
No, but you.
make an ugly
The
tree,
limb
too.
is, no, you don't want all the trees to be, I call them popsicles. You know what I mean by that? You trim all the branches underneath, and so all you have is the popsicle on the top.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on this project? Anybody online?
Sorry, still getting used to the Zoom portion. If anyone would like to speak to the project, raise your hand, I guess. Seeing none.
Move to close the hearing?
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. The hearing is closed.
Move to accept the project?
So,
with
before
what?
you do that, I have not received a DEP number yet.
We get them this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Never mind.
They
Is that
did, I
okay?
can look them up on my phone if you like.
Yeah, so I just jumped on the website and I didn't see I didn't have a chance to review my email before the meeting. Would they be there?
Yeah, I had to give them a little poke.
Okay.
Yes. It's,
So for 41, what is? 2789. Okay. Sorry, Denise, you can continue. The DEP number for this one is 0762789.
Thank you. So I move to accept the project with a standard order of conditions.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained, 500. Done. Approved. See Mr. Flaherty before you start any work for the paperwork. Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Next one, please.
All righty. On the request for notice of intent for Susan Whitehead, Environmental Consulting and Restoration, LLC, P.O. Box 4112, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 02361, for treatment and removal of non-invasive plant species, planting and native species, meadow maintenance and vista pruning located on Assessor's Map 31 and 31, lots 3A and 2A, 43 and 45, Bon Prune Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
And please identify yourselves representing the project.
Good evening, Brad Holmes again with ECR. Along with me this evening is Susan Whitehead by Zoom, and my co-partner, Sam Gray. This is a kind of team project. I didn't start that out on the last, on Sam's project, but as you can see, this is kind of an overall lot project with Sam is to the west and Susan's two lots are to the east. You can see the bigger lot is 43, and the 45 is kind of a smaller, narrower lot that gets wider as you get down towards the coastal portion. So similar to the last project, we have coastal dune, a very small piece of bordering vegetated wetland along that western line, land subject to coastal storm flowage and the 100-foot buffer zone. This project is the same project as we just discussed. The one difference on Susan's property is that she did get a determination of applicability a few years or so ago for vista pruning and maintenance of a vegetation 4 feet high. I have the RDA number if you need it. But what we're looking to do is the same project as I discussed on Sam's project, is vista pruning, removal of invasives, revegetation with native plantings. There isn't a meadow maintenance in this area. It's a vegetated buffer zone. All work would occur outside the 30-foot no-touch Wareham zone and to the 100-foot buffer zone. There is really limited, there's more of a maintenance of vista pruning here because it had been vista pruned in the past, but it's now just kind of more of a maintenance task. So I can get into further detail, but it's the same activities, just different lot property numbers. And we're looking to do this as kind of together so that we enhance that whole area, and we'll have better success if we treat them together.
Yes, the project description really was a cut and paste with a few extra words.
Yes.
Yes, it was, oh, that's the same thing. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
We were thinking of some turtle crossings and rock removal, but I didn't want to.
Josh?
I have no comments.
Making fun of us.
Yes, yes. Poke, yeah. Okay, Denise,
No questions.
Michael,
No questions.
Carol,
No questions.
Jessica,
No questions.
Autumn.
No questions, thank you.
I wish I'd known it was 48 where the house was located, because I ended up walking from 42 through the woods to get to the front of 48 so I could see down their vista It was, oh, I see where that road is. It's 48. That's where all the construction vehicles are. Yes, it was, so
Showing how fast it grows up. There used to be a
Yes.
nice path going from one house to the other, but in 2 years, it's grown over completely.
yes, that wire, was it that mile a minute or whatever that prickly vine was, and the hollies have found their way into that path. But I guess the same comment is that you're going after the branching off some of the twigs of the deciduous. I am concerned that there's several very nice junipers on that property down by the water. Is there a chance they can be left alone?
Well, we're not, so the dune actually extends into the property, as you can see, and then the 30-foot buffer will be
Yep.
be in there, so we won't be touching anything in that lower
That lower,
portion.
where the, okay.
Right, we're
'cause
trying to stay out of that
I'm trying
area.
trying to remember the last time I walked all through that area when you came up with an RDA. Yeah, okay. Is there anybody online or in the audience who'd like to speak to this project? Seeing none.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
500. I have to admit, the views from those homes, absolutely spectacular.
They are, and we want to maintain it.
Yes.
We also want to maintain the natural beauty that's
And
there.
your neighbor has done the same on the other side of you to maintain that meadow with some vista for them, but maintaining the property. You're good stewards, all of you. Okay, sorry.
Try.
Editorial,
Second.
a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, 500. Thank you. Again, no work until you get your paperwork from Josh, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank
Next
you.
one, please.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right.
So you can hike?
And moving forward, on the request for notice of intent for Karen Shea, care of Merrill Engineering and Land Surveyors, 26 Union Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, 02360, to install a pool, fire pit, spa, patio, and retaining wall located on Assessors Map 5,
We could be in touch
lot
if you have any.
1024, 12 Shanley Way in Wareham, Massachusetts.
Send out the violations and-
Good evening, Commissioners.
What-
Anyway, sorry about that.
Night.
All right. Could you pull up the plan, please? Brad and I share an office together. I see him every day.
Okay, then I guess we're going to ask you to identify yourself. for
Sure, my
our
name's
record.
Tom Pozerski. I'm the Marine Services Director for Merrill Engineers. I run their two Plymouth offices, and I am here on behalf of Karen Shea for a proposed pool project.
Tom, please spell your last name for our,
Sure, it's Pozerski.
thank you.
Okay, and the project does have a DEP file number. It's SE 0762787. And you can see the proposed project consists of a pool and a patio area outside of the 30-foot no activity zone. You can see that's the green line there. There's no work that's proposed from the 0 to 30-foot no activity zone. The property contains a Zone AE on the bottom part of it, and predominantly most of the upland side comes up fairly quickly is Zone X. The highest resource area is the top of the coastal bank, which has been identified and calculated as a result of the on-the-ground survey and DEP's policy 92-1, and it fits figure 1 in this case. Comes up the slope quite a bit, so that's a good thing because, to put it in perspective, the grades are almost where it could be further downhill, but I tend to be pretty conservative in showing where my limits of my resource areas are. The mean high water is over 100 feet away from the project area, so we've got a good, nice area over there. The back area is predominantly lawn area. You can see next to the pool, we have erosion control measures planned. Those will be put in place prior to construction. They will remain in place until all construction is complete. The property is not located in the National Heritage Endangered Species Program. There's no work proposed in land subject to coastal storm flowage. There's no work proposed below the coastal bank. And like I said, all the proposed work is 100 feet away from the mean high water. And the entire project area is a previously disturbed lawn area, and there's some structures in the back area. And that's about it. That's my story. I'll be happy to address any questions, comments you have on the project.
Okay, Josh?
I see a single proposed dry well. You say it's for the pool drain. Can you describe what you are referring to when you say pool drain?
Yeah, basically, when they backflush the filters, you want a place for it to go instead of going overland. So when they backflush it, we typically put it into a dry well, and we're trying to keep that as close to the site as we can and recharge it naturally into the ground.
Sure. It has been normal practice of the commission to require any pool maintenance, such as if the pool needed to be entirely drained, that would be done by truck and not, into any resource area. I believe the commission would probably feel the same way about this project. Then, this is more up to the commission or not, but, historically you have been maintaining some type of physical 30-foot no disturb, post and rail fence, something along that line, physical boundary. This might be a fitting spot for that as well. Other than that, I have no other comments.
Harold?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
Jessica?
No questions.
Denise?
Josh touched on the physical disturb, there was some type of fencing with the sign that you've been talking about.
So the Wareham Conservation Commission is creating a sign that is to be adhered to the physical boundary. They will be purchasable from the department. And usually, I will go out and I will determine at what spacing the signs are required.
Okay. What I would like to do, and I think it looks better and is more appropriate with the commission's approval, is to leave this area open if we could. So if there is any species that come in, especially during, in a lawn area, et cetera, they can move up and down, is to install 4x4 posts, cedar posts, with the signs mounted to them. And typically, we can work out the spacing. I know typically we do 50 feet. So there's no mistake. They're going to see them because they're right in the lawn area, that you shouldn't be going any further down gradient from there. Okay, that's fine. It's just an option. Yeah, yep.
Michael?
Josh touched upon my first point about the pool. The second point is any concerns about getting construction equipment onto the property? Because I think there's one house to the left, I think it is, because Shanley Way is a very tiny
Yes.
road. And how would the construction equipment be able to get onto the property? Because once they get into the property, I think it's a pretty big area.
Yeah.
I think there's a house above it where it's a little bit, I think where the driveway next to it.
Yes.
With the property, with the construction equipment going to the property.
Yeah, I think that's really about the only place that can access into this area here. So what we could do is, I could give you, I get a hold of the contractor and I can give you an exhibit to show how they're gonna get in, and then the material staging area too, which obviously the material staging area would have to be up near the bluestone patio area and things of that nature, and they can do it in phases and bring it in, because there is a limited work area in there.
All right, also, what about the surface, the patio area, just in case of any runoff concerns into the bay?
Typically, they were gonna make that concrete, but there are other options. Sometimes commissions wanna have, slate with stone in it, so it can percolate through the stone spaces. So that's open. If the commission has a preference on that, we can do that, but usually it's concrete.
All right, okay, thank you.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I would prefer that area to be pervious.
Okay.
Exactly what becomes that pervious material? I don't have a preference. I'm not
Okay.
going to say it has to be blocks or stone or anything like that, but something other than concrete would be
Okay,
helpful.
absolutely. Yep. I'll talk to Duxbury Gardens tomorrow.
How much fill are you going to need in order to level this off? Because you are building this on the slope.
Yeah, I mean,
Or are you going to dig into the ground in order
yeah,
to make it?
basically, you're gonna dig into the ground, because typically in the lawn areas, there's only 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches of loam. There's a decent amount of excavation work that's needed for the spa and the pool area itself. So I don't think there's gonna be a huge amount of fill needed on this thing, and you can see that we've got a grade and swell it around. So it's not gonna be a tremendous amount of fill that's needed at all. I mean, granted, when we do the patios and things like that, we're gonna need, some stable material, some gravel and stuff like that to pack it down, and then it'll be pervious. And then we can put slate with spaces in it or whatever. But something like this where the slope's actually working with us, we'll be cutting in and then we'll be excavating down.
And the erosion control, you have wattles. Your erosion control, you talked about a 8-inch straw wattle. Do we normally do? We don't normally do a wattle. Our standard order of conditions talks about hay bales.
Yeah, so our standard order has something specified. The commission hasn't always adhered to, what we've done historically. I think it's something that we should look at moving forward.
Are you comfortable with an 8-inch wattle?
I am.
And if you're comfortable, we could do straw bales instead, so we don't have any invasive seeds in there. That's fine, too. Provide some added protection. It doesn't really matter to me.
Since it will be down slope. I don't know. Anybody? An 8-inch. I think erosion control, how much backfill you're gonna cut into the banking. Michael had a good point about getting the equipment in there in order to do the digging and the excavating. We're going to put in order conditions that to fill and to drain the tank, pool, you have to use an outside tank vendor to bring in the water and remove the water. It's
that's
not to be
fine.
drained. And
Yeah.
you're not, I don't think you want to use your well water or town water to do that. That would be, on a well here,
It's town water.
a town, I don't think you want that cost from the onset water department to fill it. Will it be fresh water, chlorinated?
Yes,
Salt,
fresh water,
chlorinated?
yes.
So there will be an issue with this dry well for the pool drains, won't be an issue with the chlorinated water? It's probably not
It's not a high
Bad.
level of, no, it's not a high level.
more than a
of-
hot tub.
It's less,
Okay.
yeah.
I do thank you for staking it. There were just so many stakes, it was hard to tell one
Our
from
guys
another.
usually,
It
our
was
guys usually do a pretty good job at that.
women. It's the orange ones. What's the pink ones?
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, and I think, why don't we consider going with a 12-inch straw wattle or the straw bales for a little added protection in case there is an issue down there.
12-inch wattle?
Yeah.
I think the goal of the physical barrier is to have it known for the homeowner and any new homeowners that it is a resource area beyond that point. I don't see an issue. I mean, he's basically proposing a post rail fence without the rails. Maybe spaced out a little more than a post and rail fence, but I think it would probably give you the same amount of awareness. I think it's something that,
And it looks nice, too.
right, it's a difference of preference between a homeowner. you know, I think you guys have allowed boulders in the past. It's just another option.
That's a nice field down there. Ken's a question, you probably don't know, when did the fence go in along the seawall?
I
I don't remember
know.
that being permitted.
I don't know.
I meant to go back over what I have, as to what I have for a prior hearing on this site, but I just don't remember approving the fence on the seawall. But then again, it was a while ago since I was at this site.
Yeah, I could take a look in our files and see if that was included in any previous filings.
I meant to do that, and I just didn't get around to it. Is there anybody who would like to speak to this project, either online or in the audience? Seeing none,
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. The hearing is closed.
Oh, I went off, sorry. Move to accept the project standard order of conditions with an additional signage and posting at the NAZ portion of the property, with the understanding that the pool will be filled and emptied by truck, that we will go with pervious versus concrete for around the pool, and you're going to be using 12-inch wattles versus the 8-inch wattles. And I think that was
I
it.
think that's it for the conditions. That be your motion?
Yes.
Second?
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Done.
Madam Chair, I have a question on the posts. Are they at the 35-foot or at the top of coastal bank? And do you need an updated plan showing the 12-inch wattles and the posts?
I would say yes for the post, if that's gonna be a continuing condition, we
Right.
want that shown on the plan.
And we're at the TCB or the 35-foot? 30-foot, no activity.
30-foot.
30-foot.
30-foot no activity
Okay.
zone.
It would be at the 30.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
All right. We have a continued hearing. We have received a request for a continuance of the Courtney 1014-16 River Terrace notice of intent. I need a motion to continue in 419.
I move we continue until 4:19 on the Corkery
Second.
project.
All in favor? I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 600. The next hearing is Ryan Velcro, 72B Burgess Point Road.
500, not 6.
I thought I
50.
corrected myself, 500. Okay, please identify yourself for the record, Brian.
Good evening, Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
Okay,
All right, so when we were here last, we had presented a revised plan and shellfish survey. The revised plan showed where boulders were located along the shoreline. So that was the only thing added to the plan. It didn't require us to make any changes to the pier itself. All the boulders were well out of the way, so we certainly got lucky with that. We also provided the shellfish survey, which gave us an approximate density of about 0.41 cohogs per square foot in the area. No other shellfish were present, so we had stated that that would equate to about 7 cohogs being displaced by the piles. So that's certainly something we can work around. There were also questions regarding the eelgrass delineation, which we have since gotten clarification on. I had met with Josh a couple times to discuss that. We presented a plan that or I provided a plan that showed our site plan laid over the aerial image of the eelgrass delineation that was shown in the report prepared by ECR. We were able to use the existing float as one fixed point, and actually the boulders that we had located for the other fixed points. We brought in, merged the plans together, which showed that our delineation was further inward than what was sort of shown on that plan. It eliminated some uncertainty with how the delineation was drawn in. I'd say we, as I mentioned before, we were still a little conservative on the delineation, so we did not need to make any changes to that. I believe that had addressed all outstanding issues. From what we can tell, this project meets, again, all the requirements set forth in the wetland Wareham bylaw, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you. Before we continue, I did miss the March 1st meeting in which this was discussed. I have listened to the recording and so stipulated in a document that's been signed and given to Josh to be on file. So I'm current with the project.
Perfect.
Josh?
Yep, so at the previous hearing that was discussed on this project, I asked for a continuance to review the project since it had started before me taking the position. After meeting with Brian, it was determined that it was more of the difficulty of the plan to read than it was any inaccuracies with the bylaw, I'll say. So moving forward, I believe this project meets all the standards of the bylaw, and I would recommend the approval of the project. With that being said, I know that some members of the commission would like to see maybe how things are staked out and proposed in plans a little differently, but I'll let the commission speak to that.
Thank you. I'll start with Michael,
No comments, thank you.
Carol,
No comment.
Jessica.
I wasn't here for the original one, so.
Okay. You could ask the questions. You
You-
just can't vote.
Correct. You can comment, you can't vote.
No questions.
Myself, I have nothing more to add, so it's up to you.
It's up to me, and I know I've been a thorn in your side, but I do want to thank you for that last overlay map. It was very clear, very concise as to where everything was. I think my problem with the whole thing was a letter from ECR stating shoreline and not defining shoreline. I
Right.
think that needs to be clearer in the future. It was problematic for this. I do like Josh's idea of staking, so that I know in the future where the measurements are coming from, and I know that all the measurements are coming from that staked area.
Right.
I also liked your idea of marking with buoys a path to the dock, so that there's less damage to that eelgrass bed.
Sure.
While I'm not happy, you know that, I really think the shortening of the pier would have helped with that eelgrass bed, but I am satisfied that you are within the bylaws. So I withdraw my objection.
I do have one, you reminded me of something. To mark a path through the eelgrass, you're in navigable waters.
Yeah.
And to me, some type of marking in that eelgrass would be just as much damage of having some type of buoy or something on the ground in order to move when the winds and the waves move. And I'm not too comfortable putting in some markers to identify a path across that eelgrass because the depth is such. I think those markers could very well do more damage or put buoys out in navigable waters.
Okay.
So
I think that
you just ask them to use the same path in and out, make a bearing on your dock and use that path constantly, because I think more damage could be done to the eelgrass by putting in buoys.
well, I don't think that we can actually enforce that.
No, we can't do anything. We can put the markers in there, we can't enforce it. They use, it's not like a navigational aid
Correct.
that says if you don't do this, you're gonna go aground. So no matter what we do or don't do, it would be up to the boat owner to take care of how he traverses the eelgrass.
Yeah, I would just add on that, the approach to the float, it would be essentially the same. He wouldn't be coming in from the shore. It wouldn't be running along the shoreline, most likely. So I think in lieu of floats, the approach of any vessel approaching this float would be very close to being the same every time.
Just depends on which way the wind's flowing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the water depth out there is quite a bit of water as well. So there's, I think 8 feet or so at low tide and even more at high tide. So a lot of vertical distance between the propeller of a boat and the eelgrass itself. So
I still like the idea of marking the path, but
I understand.
it's okay.
Good in theory, but
Take a deep
not
breath.
so practical sometimes, I guess.
Take a deep breath.
Is there anybody to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
Move to close the hearing?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Closed. Denise, I'm going to give you the privilege of,
I don't even know if I really want to. I mean, how is the vote? It's a 400? Is that what the vote is?
Yes.
no, it's 500 to close the hearing.
Can she vote? She can vote on
She's
Klein.
closing the hearing.
Hearing, okay. I'm just trying to figure this out.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, a move to accept the project.
Second.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Wait a minute, let me just see if there was anything
The standard, yep.
with the standard order of conditions. And that's it, I guess.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to roll call.
Okay.
Carol?
Yes.
Jessica?
She can't.
Abstain.
Can't.
Denise?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Sandy? Aye. So we're
401.
401. Done.
We'll see you before any work starts.
You got it. I was going to say, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
The next hearing is Pinehurst Beach Association. They've asked for a continuance until 4/19. I need a motion.
Motion to continue until 4/19.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. We're continued. All right. Now we're down to no enforcements, no extensions, no certifications, no amended orders, so with other business. Discussion of Agawam Mill Bond regarding the seasonal cleanup of their invasive water thingies. Water weeds.
Yes.
Water weeds.
Agawam.
Please identify yourself for the record, sir.
My name is Mike Lenahan. I'm with Cleanup of Agawam Mill Pond, Inc. And we're here. I decided to come in person, see, I met Josh. We've been doing this for 10 years. I know there's a few familiar faces in the crowd here, but some new ones too, so I figured I would, pretty much every year I've either appeared on Zoom or come in here personally to, just explain what we're doing and how the project's going. And I'm happy to say that it's not advancing, it's staying the same. I mean, we've controlled the invasive weeds so that the pond has become, the ecosystem is healthy again from where it was before 10 years ago when we started this thing. All the neighbors pitch in with a due structure to pay for this. And we do it as a treatment one day a year, and it's, everybody regulates what we do there, including you guys, but I mean, we go through the marine fisheries, we go through the DEP,
We go through the endangered species. Every year, we write right now, we have a report in front of you, which is the plan for this year. It's an 8-page document that explains what we're doing. Pretty much the same for the last 6 years. And we monitor the results of what we do. Professional aquatic people, we don't do this on our own. We have professionals that we hired to do this. And then they test the water. DEP works with us to actually do the testing. We do the sampling, bring it to them, they test it. And then at the end of the year, we prepare a final report, which more or less says everything was good. So it's a little repetitive sometimes, but it's, we are dealing with ecosystem and a pond there, but I think you'll find that it's probably, I think we're the only pond association in Wareham that has been able to get together and be able to accomplish this, because the invasive weeds is, I don't have to tell you guys, is pretty much prevalent in probably at least 1/3 of the ponds throughout the whole Commonwealth, especially if they're shallow. You just almost can't beat these things, but we can't really, you just can't go in there once and take care of them either, so what we do is control them. That's all we can do. But it's been successful, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
When they started working on this, you couldn't row a boat. You couldn't put an oar in the water, because you put an oar in the water, all you came up with these weeds, oxygenators.
It's horrible.
You couldn't swim in it, nothing. It was just choking everything in it, because it took all the oxygen. But good job. So, Josh, anything?
The bass fishing is back.
Yep.
Even the state, for anyone the new people, the state saw that we did such a good job, they decided to put a beautiful boat ramp in there. So now you have a parking lot and a boat ramp, so you can come in and enjoy it with your kayaks, and the fishing tournaments are back. So it's a healthy pond again, and we hope to keep it that way.
Yep, so this is a project that the commission recently extended the permit on. So I think it was 3 years, I think that's where we landed. This is his way of his annual notification to you all. So I can share the document that he shared with me via email if you guys would like to see it, but I think it's pretty
I'll see it in
standard for what
person.
you've been doing. Or it sounds like he has one that he can give you.
Yep.
So.
Questions? Autumn?
No questions, thank
Michael?
you.
Sounds like folks have been doing great work. Keep it up, and other than that, no questions.
Denise?
No questions.
Carol?
Thank you for making that pond what it was 40 years ago.
There's
I
some
used to
people that-
swim there. That's,
Yeah, I've got neighbors that have been there for that long, and they saw the whole cycle of the invasives come in, and now we, got them back
and
under
it's
control.
it looks beautiful. Thank you.
Jessica?
No questions.
All right.
Anything to add? Thank you very much, Mike, for coming in front of us again.
I
and keeping
appreciate it.
Keep it
Your
up.
time. Okay, thank you very much.
I do take my McDonald's to that boat ramp. I sit there and enjoy it. My french fries. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Catch up with you, I suppose, at something, for something. I don't know what.
No, you're all set. This was just an FYI to the rest of us. Yes, appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you.
Of course.
Possible changes. You mind if I cut down? We've got some people here to talk about the holding of the CR for Sawyer project. Does anybody have a problem? We go number 3 and bring them forward. So Wareham Land Trust, come forward and talk to us about holding CR for that Sawyer property.
Kathy Papalardo, President of the Wareham Land Trust.
Nancy McHale, Treasurer of the Wareham Land Trust.
With your permission, we have Lisa Leduc Fleming, our Executive Director, on Zoom.
I thought she just left.
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, she's there.
We can barely hear you, Elise, so if you wouldn't mind speaking up, that'd be good.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. For the record, again, my name is Elise Leduc Fleming. I'm the Executive Director of the Wareham Land Trust. I want to just start by saying the Wareham Land Trust greatly appreciates the partnership we already have with the Conservation Commission when it comes to protecting open spaces in town. We have 4 separate properties that we own that the Conservation Commission is already the holder of the CR. 3 of our parcels in the Marks Cove Conservation Area, as well as part of our Tweedy and Barnes Preserve. And then there are other properties owned by the Conservation Commission and the town that we're the holder of the CR. It's been a really positive relationship for decades at this point. We're here tonight because we have applied for a Community Preservation Committee grant to fund the acquisition of the Sawyer property. And any land purchased with CPC funds needs to have a conservation restriction placed on it. We were pleased that the Conservation Commission unanimously voted to support our CPC grant request and did submit a letter of support with our application. Just as an update to all of you, we have already done much of the due diligence related to that purchase. We've completed the appraisal and environmental assessment, a survey. We have a title search in the works that is almost finished. And moving forward, assuming the town meeting vote goes in our favor, we can offer to do much of the additional work that would go into putting a CR on this property, including preparing the initial draft for the Conservation Commission's review and approval, as well as preparing the baseline documentation report and paying for any legal and recording fees. The conservation restrictions would likely be similar to any of the other properties we own that the Conservation Commission already holds a CR on, although it would be up for discussion and approval in the future as we get to that point. The only thing that the town and the commission may want to do in addition to our own due diligence, it would be a title search between our closing on the property and the closing on the CR, but that may essentially be unnecessary. So similar to past Community Preservation Committee projects, what we're asking from the Conservation Commission tonight is whether you'd be willing to partner with us again on this project and be the holder of the conservation restriction if we are able to purchase the property. And if this is something that the commission agrees with, we think it would be really helpful to have an affirmative vote from the commission prior to the town meeting on April 24th. I'm not sure if it's possible for you to vote tonight, even if you wanted to, but if not, perhaps in your meeting in 2 weeks. But that's why we're here. Nancy and Kathy are there as well, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. One of the things is that if community preservation funds are used for purchase, they're looking for $49,000 to be voted at town meeting. It is strongly recommended that the town of Wareham stay connected to the project, i.e., have part of a skin in the game, however you put it. So it was strongly recommended by Community Preservation Coalition that the town holds this conservation restriction and that it be the Conservation Commission. That's with my CPA hat on. That is why we're here, to get a confirmation from the commission that you're willing to do it. I honestly don't know who has the final say in the town. It could very well be Mr. Sullivan, but I think with the support from here, I think we can make the point that we own the CR. Part of it is that they do all the work and all we do is review the document, but once a year, as the holder of the CR, we would be asked to do a stewardship report, i.e. walk the parameters of the particular parcel to make sure that no one has encroached and everything's still good, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not a big hardship or a major duty to sit down and just parameter the 11-plus acres. So that's my comment. So would you like to add anything else?
I would say this would be handled very similarly to the other properties that we already have worked with the town on, where the land trust is owning it and the town conservation commission holds the CR on it. And at one point way back, you guys were doing some of the monitoring.
Yes, we were. Mm-hmm.
But it gets done every year because we all want to make sure there's nothing bad going on out there.
Lynn makes sure everybody's done their due diligence for every piece of the property. You haven't done it yet, you're running out of time, so comes that email. Yes,
Yes, you know that well.
Yes, I know. I'm always making it 2 days before the due date, but, okay.
So who walks the property and does?
Well, the land trust tends to do their steward, but it would be the holder of the conservation restriction, so somebody here would get out and walk.
Have to go with them.
Or go on your own. I mean, the idea is that
And when is this done?
once a year,
Yeah, but
when, it makes no difference when, just
doesn't
once a
matter,
year.
like a certain.
It was preferable in the fall when the leaves have dropped to make it easier to walk the property line. But Joe Ligon and I used to do the other sites, Marks Cove and what's the other one down there? Yeah. Just to watch and make sure that nobody has done bad things on it. Yeah.
I'll just interject that the land trust, regardless of what whether or not the Conservation Commission would actually walk the property, the land trust walks the property themselves anyway and does a complete report.
And the reports are available online to review and stuff like that.
Yes.
The last time the town approved a purchase of property off of Main Street, there was a motion on the floor to have the Board of Selectmen hold the CR. But this time, when the motion, the article is that a CR must be held. There's nothing in the article that says who owns the CR, which is why we're here saying we could, with the approval of the Conservation Commission, report to town meeting that we'd be willing, or we approve the holding of the CR, but it would not be in the motion. I don't see that as an issue because someone has to hold it, and it's strongly recommended that it be the town. But I'm not sure who has the final say. Do you know, Josh, whether or not it has to be Mr. Sullivan or the selectman? Sorry.
That's a good question. I would assume it'd be the selectmen, but.
Select board. I can't get used to this select board.
The select
So
board.
if there's any questions, we can ask the ladies whether or not, any questions you might have of this, then we could take a vote as to whether or not you would be willing to hold the CR for Conservation Commission and send a letter to the Select Board and Mr. Sullivan that we are in support of it. But the questions, I'll start with Denise.
I don't know that much about it, so I'm not to the extent of going out walking and preparing a report.
Believe me, we would teach you, show you, if you chose to learn.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is one of the easier pieces of parcels to do it to.
Okay. No, that would be my
Michael?
question.
Yeah, same thing, same as Denise. I don't really want to know much, but it'd certainly be interesting. Let's just put it that way. So.
Autumn?
Yeah, do you maintain a record of the initial state of the property?
I'm sorry?
Do you maintain a record of the initial state of the property when you purchase it?
Yes, that's a baseline documentation report.
Thank you.
Yes, that will be, it has not been prepared yet, because we're getting, as they say, all of our ducks in a row. But the baseline documentation report is so that you know what was there when you bought it.
So there's pictures of every point that identifies the boundary of the particular land. Oh, there's the marker, there's whatever, and what trees were down and who encroached on what. So we have a starting point where everybody understands what exists at the time of the purchase. Carol?
No questions.
Jessica?
No questions.
Anything?
Can I just say a few things? Elise, can you talk about the abutting properties? Because I think that's important to know for this piece of property.
Sure. So I recognizing that the commission submitted a letter of support, but maybe not all the commission members were around when that was put together, or weren't all involved in preparing that. This piece of property, we're calling it like the hole in the conservation puzzle. It abuts another piece of property that is owned by the Wareham Land Trust. It abuts trustees of reservation land, and it abuts Onset Water District. Basically their wellhead protection area. There's, to the south, there is a single private parcel remaining. that is the direct abutter to the Sawyer property to the south. But otherwise, this property is basically surrounded by other conservation land. So the potential of budding encroachments are very minimal moving forward. And for those who haven't seen or heard sort of our bigger plan for this area, where we've been working with the Onset Water District to reopen some of the existing trails on their lands, which would connect into the northern parcel owned by the trustees that they've never been able to access. It would run through our existing owned property, and then if this acquisition goes through successfully, it would go through this property as well. So it would open up 3.4 additional miles of recreational trails for folks to use. And this piece of land really fills in that puzzle for us. So it's all west of Red Brook, just next to, between the Lyman Reserve and the Onset Water District land, essentially.
Yeah, I think that speaks to a few of the commissioners' concerns about the actual report that's given every year. I think it's, I hope it's safe to assume that 3 out of 4 of the abutters would not have any encroachment onto the property, because that's the goal that they're trying to accomplish. So, and I do believe that the actual site walk-in report can fall under my duties. So, moving forward, I could be responsible for that report.
And there is a article, if it hasn't already, that's in Wareham Week, if you have a chance to look at it, that talks about the 4+ miles of trails that are being part of this project. You can see on it where there's this center of these 12 acres that are the Sawyer property, and how the trails go. So if you have a chance, go look at Wareham Week online and take a look at the article, because it well defines where the trails will be expanded because of this, if this purchase goes through. And the parking to utilize this trail already exists. Is that correct, off of Red Brook? So
That's correct. We've been in contact with the trustees of reservations too, and they're excited about this project. And basically their existing Lyman Reserve parking lot, which is actually over the town line, I think it's technically Plymouth at that point, that would be the same entrance to use to get to the rest of this trail system.
I do have a couple of copies of the map and other things, if anyone would like to take a look at it.
okay. Anything else, Josh?
I believe the way that we have it laid out in the agenda, you can make a vote on this. So if it's a vote that you're looking for, then you should be all set to take that.
So I believe we should be making a motion to vote to support that the Conservation Commission holds the conservation restriction on the Sawyer property, and that letter be sent to Mr. Sullivan and the Select Board.
Okay, how do I make that motion?
So moved works.
Say so moved.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Joshua, you write the email letter, or do you want me to? You
take
can.
care of that.
You can, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Back to the changes to 124 Minot Ave project.
Good evening. This is Jim Pavlik on, I'm online.
Oh,
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, I believe the applicant is on,
Wait 1 second. Do you want to state your conflict, or just, that you can listen to the discussion and not speak?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. You can continue.
okay. So again, I'm Jim Pavlik with Outback Engineering, and do you guys have a copy of the plan in front of you?
I believe I have one. Just remind me of, let me just pull it up.
Okay.
Was this one of the duplexes that were approved off Minot Ave?
Yes, exactly.
One
So-
of 6 of them? I'm trying to remember how many have been approved off of Minot Ave.
Yeah, all of the units have been approved. This is, Danny Lewis is the builder for what we were calling lots 4, 5, and 6, closer to the fire department building.
And which one has been built on?
5 and 6 have been built and sold, the lots. So those are closest to the fire department.
Okay, they've been built on. Okay.
And this is lot 4 that we're talking about, which is the next one up the road towards the Brandywine School. So there we go. So if you recall, this lot, it was a pre-existing lot, and after flagging the wetlands, we were left with a couple of upland areas, but within the buffer zone. So the building is pushed to the left-hand side of the lot, and we were maintaining a 30-foot no-touch buffer to the wetlands, and we kept all the work out of the riverfront area. And due to the location of the floodplain here, we put a retaining wall around 2 sides, the right side and the back. And those walls are about 7 feet high. So the request we'd like for the commission to consider is to reduce those walls and work within the 30-foot buffer and or the outer riparian zone. And maintain, what we'd be looking to do is maintain a 15-foot buffer to the wetlands and eliminate the wall in the back. So that would be, grading out into the outer riparian zone. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, we're allowed to alter up to 10%, and there's a significant amount of riverfront area there that we would be completely outside of, within those 10% limits. We'd just be grading maybe another 20 feet into the outer riparian zone. So that's what we have to discuss, whether you'd consider reducing these retaining walls and allowing work within up to the 15-foot buffer and into the outer riparian zone.
What are you going to start with?
Josh, have you looked at the This has not been built, correct?
No.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't been out to the property knowing that you had already approved what was there, with his only request being to give a variance within the 30-foot no disturb. I'm not sure how the commission has previously handled any requests of variance within that zone, and I felt it was best for him to come in and, ask the commission of their opinion on that.
I'm trying to think, how long have we had the 30 and 50-foot setback? 2 years now? I think 20?
We've had it as long as I've been on the commission.
It may have been longer than that.
Yeah. or at
No,
least that
it's
long.
been at least maybe 2 years. I don't remember ever
We don't.
giving in on the 30-foot no activity zone.
We can't, because we have to be consistent with all projects. If we allowed him to enter the no-activity zone, what's to stop any other project from entering the no-activity zone?
Why are you asking for a variance? Is it because what you want can't be built by staying out of the 30-foot?
No, it can be built. It's just that it's going to have a 6 to 7 foot high wall. And so that's the trade-off. Either we grade down towards, into that 30-foot buffer zone, or we have to put in the wall. And, from an aesthetics viewpoint, and would still be maintaining, it's over a 3-acre lot, and we're preserving much of the lot as it is.
Well, it's because
We're just working in this tiny corner of the lot. And then in terms of the outer riparian zone, would be seeking to work within that allowable 10% alteration of the riverfront area. There's no other portion of the site that's within, or no other work is proposed within the riverfront area. This would be the only location.
Comments?
No activity zone is a no activity zone. We have to be consistent.
I agree with Denise.
Same here. It's been a while since yeah,
We
it
set
may-
precedent
It may
if
be,
we-
it may
If we
be
set
longer than
precedence
you
with this,
think.
there's no reason even to have a no activity zone then, if you're gonna allow this to happen. So I would say.
Tell me again why the wall is so tall?
It's due to the floodplain, where this site is near the Agawam River. So there's a stream that runs through the property that is subject to flooding at
So the
based
wall
on
is to
FEMA
keep the
mapping.
stream from flooding into the property.
Right. So
I think you heard from us, I mean, that 30-foot no activity zone is really what the bylaw is.
right. What about doing the work within the outer riparian zone? If we were to grade out into that about 20 feet,
So you're
Is that in the
you're no
no?
touch.
would still maintain the 30-foot no-touch buffer.
Josh?
So it looks like it would just be the back wall that you're
Yes.
grading out of the plan.
Correct.
And what's the dotted line?
The dot line is
Dash-
the
dash line
outer
goes-
riparian zone,
That's
the 200-foot
That's the
setback
200
from the
foot
river.
setback? And we've allowed stuff in the 200-foot setback,
It's allowable, yeah.
yeah. So grading along the back there and a wall on the other side?
So are we looking for an updated plan?
This is
Yes.
your proposed
So
plan.
before we did that, we wanted to seek your input, and, if you guys are amenable to that, would submit a revised plan.
Is this the existing plan or the proposed? This is the existing plan that was approved.
Yes. Yep, this is it. I think the plan I have shows roof drains. Oh, yeah, this does have the roof drains on it also. I see it. Yep.
I think if he's taking out the wall, we would probably require an amended order of conditions.
Yes,
With the revised plan.
yes. So we're looking for consideration, a revised plan for an amended order of conditions for consideration.
Okay, does that mean a new public hearing, or is it just, can the commission just vote on it?
I believe the amended order of conditions does require another public hearing.
Okay,
So that would require the abutter notification and the advertisement into the Wareham Week.
okay,
All right.
okay, all right, appreciate your time.
We have minutes from March 1st and March 15th.
Yeah, I believe the commission has already taken a stance on these minutes after getting them revised by the person who does our minutes. I believe they are just ready to be signed. So that's the only reason I left them on the agenda.
Okay, so they've been approved.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay, so I need to come in and sign.
yep, and
Okay.
then I will remove them from the agenda.
All right. We have, I did pass out an application. Somebody is interested in joining the commission. So she could not be with us tonight because of Seder, so she has been to our meetings before, but now this is a formal submission for an application. We have three of you, Carol, Michael, and Nicole, your term expires in June, just for some consideration. Let me know if you want to continued as a member of Conservation. Just send me a note. Michael, Carol, what your plans are for next year. Autumn associates expire every year, so let me know if you would like to continue as an associate, so I can have that paperwork, because the selectmen will be asking. Denise, I believe you want to talk about the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act pamphlet?
We already talked about that.
I don't remember it being approved.
I think we did approve to have them purchased.
Oh, I guess I just missed it. I know I heard, never mind.
We have discussed it. If you want to take another vote to purchase
No,
them, that's
no, I
fine.
just- I was cleaning out my print list, and I came across it, and I hadn't said, okay, so the idea is to give it to all the realtors?
The idea is to make it available to realtors in the town.
And outside your office?
And outside the office.
Okay, because no more, I didn't know,
Well,
excuse. Yeah, right.
Correct. That's what we're hoping for.
yeah.
Is there anything else on the agenda anybody wants to consider? If not,
Wait a minute, let me look.
I have some new business that I'd like to bring to the board.
Okay.
Some of that new business being, I would like to move to online permitting. What I would look for as a requirement of that is no longer receiving hard copies of everything. It would just be 3 hard copies of a plan. 1 for the file at Town Hall, and then 2 to have at the meeting, or for any of you if you'd like to take it out to a property while you do your site visits. Ideally, I'd like to get this before our May meeting, our first meeting in May, which would be May 3rd. So maybe we can, I'll bring it to the commission now. I'll get it on the agenda for our next hearing, and if you
Okay.
want to take a vote on it, we can do that.
that would mean that we would have the responsibility of going online and getting all the information we need for the hearing. We no longer would receive. The only thing you would be sending us in an email would be a copy of the ads.
The ads, the agenda, and
Sorry, ads and agenda.
I would say we don't have to stop me emailing the files right away. I would like to get the commission comfortable with using the program that the town hall utilizes now, and then if we
Okay.
feel everyone is fit to do it, then we
So
can
you'll give us a,
give you a one-on-one tutorial. We could have a tutorial during one of our hearings. It's
Yep.
up to the commission.
okay. Comments on that? I mean, we'll have more discussion at the next meeting, and so, yes,
That's all I have.
yes.
I was wondering if anybody on the commission would be interested in doing a quarterly blog or a Facebook page or newspaper articles occasionally, so that we get our faces, our ideas, actually what we're doing out there, so we're not so, I don't know, nobody seems to care about conservation, and I think it would be a way to get the town more.
We could very well ask the newspaper, Wareham Week, to do something for us.
I know you love
But-
us.
Honestly, I don't like Facebook.
All right, but what about a quarterly blog or a newspaper article occasionally?
Newspaper article could very well be, what have we done in the last quarter?
Right. Doesn't have to be a weekly thing. It could
No,
be-
no, once a quarter
know,
probably would be
Or
fine.
every 6 months, just
Anybody
kind of
got
get
a
us out
comment on
there.
this? I mean,
I think it is beneficial to do some public marketing, especially if we do traditional and digital marketing to meet different segments of our community. It would be good to get our name out there.
when you say digital marketing, You mean Facebook?
Well, it could be Facebook, social media, if we had an email newsletter. But, I mean, it would also tie in with the Wareham Week. because they
Wareham
have
Week's online.
The online presence.
Right. So if they published that information online, people, because people read it online.
I do.
So,
Yeah, even like a local radio station, but that's more traditional.
Well, all of our meetings are available on WCTV. We are live now, so there is that communication, but I have no problem with maybe once a quarter put together a little what have we done type thing and put it in the newspaper. But I'm not comfortable with Facebook.
I think that we could expand upon it too, you know, perhaps even more than what have we done, but like how to work with us, how to better understand what we're doing, you know, in lay terms.
What are we trying to save?
What's important? What are the goals? You know, how do we work together? You know, I don't think I think it's sometimes hard to understand for a lay person.
I think sometimes they look at us as the enemy also. I think they don't realize that we're trying to
certainly.
work together to get things done in town.
Oh, certainly. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think
I
people
just
would
wanted-
really
I-
understand us more.
Right,
you
wanted
know.
to put it out there and
Yeah,
see if
exactly,
anybody
because I've
was.
been asked questions sometimes like, well, conservation, if I want to do something, how do you guys, what's the process? What do you guys do? How's it all get done? So certainly, even if it isn't Facebook, it could be something different, like, you know, it would be certainly a lot easier. It'd be, you know, it would, yeah, I think it'd be a wonderful idea, just to even, you know, get out there a little bit more. Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Anybody willing to spearhead it? Don't look at me. I got enough on my
not
plate.
me.
I mean, other than.
Got enough
I
on my
mean, I
plate
don't
here.
know. I mean, obviously, well, I just don't know, we hate to give out my age here, but I'm a middle-aged guy. All I know is Facebook and some of the other, Wareham Weekly, it's all I know. And WCTV, that's all I know, and I've been in the part of the community, I'm not gonna give my life story right now, part of the community for, we'll say, like 3 to 30 years, we'll say that, but I don't know what else is out there.
I think we could all do it because I'm guessing that we all bring a unique perspective. You know, I think if we each sort of contributed or collaborated, we could do something
Okay.
Yeah,
varied.
even if we just hosted like a biannual cleanup, you know, just to get our name out there and show our faces in the community and get our local communities, or if it's a neighborhood thing.
They need you closer to the mic.
Closer to the microphone.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of getting our presence out there and showing the community that we are benefiting
No,
our local
Exactly,
environment.
gets us out of a cave, let's just put it that way. And I think that's what I was trying to say a minute ago.
It doesn't have to be
Could be a
just
good
one
project for
person
Amber.
who's spearheading it. You get two people working together.
Autumn, I think you just stepped up. Okay,
I said, yeah, it doesn't just have to be just one person. I mean, there could be two people. Oh, look, two people.
We could do a table at the Oyster Festival,
We could.
something like that, to like, you know, with some material like that you've developed and, you know, just to say hello and meet people or, you know.
well, we just had that Wareham redevelopment put that program together this past weekend about what's happening in town. That could have been a good place for us, one of our tables there,
Yeah.
to go along with the YMCA and the other organizations in town to promote what Wareham is and what we have to offer. So we should be considering that type of public influence, that public exposure. You had a hand up. But you're going to have to come up to the mic so they can hear you.
They put their hands up a lot,
Yeah, they do.
They do.
but it's usually something really good.
Okay. Again, Nancy McHale, thank you. I think the idea of the online permitting is really great. One of the things that, from a user's perspective, would be helpful is, and I don't know Josh's plan for how that would work, would be to also have the applications or the plot plans, that sort of thing, online, the same way that it is for planning and zoning.
Is that your intent, is to, everything we receive?
So everything would be posted online. It wouldn't be in the format that you currently see the planning and zoning department, the way that they have it currently. I can say that the planning and zoning department are going to be transitioning to the way that I envision it. So it will increase transparency between boards. It will increase the transparency and the accessibility to the general public. You will be able to have public comment on the online portal as well, where traditionally it was you show up at a meeting or you submit a letter to the commission. There will be a portal for that. And it will also allow other departments in the town of Wareham Town Hall to work together so that all of our permits are tied instead of, us having to go out of our way to deal with each other. So it would allow for the application, the plans, and any relevant material to be available to the public.
That would be great, because I think that one of the time constraints that we place on town employees is going down and saying, can you show me this permit? Or can you show me this plan? Or how do I find out that? So having all that available for people to bring it up online, it would be really, really terrific. Thank you.
But my comment, since you're talking about, getting the word out and everything, you guys all know what you're doing. And your point is you want the people in town to understand what is Concom. Well, I have to tell you, up until the past probably pre-COVID is when we were starting to come to planning board, because as the trees were going down by the thousands, we were fighting to save them. It was during that I learned that all of these trees, that it's not Concom's purview. It only mattered if there was water nearby. I never knew that. It was like, but there's hundreds of trees they're gonna cut down. And it would be, is there water near there? Is there no, it's forest, nice, dry, blah, blah. So just as a lay person, yes, I'm with the land trust, I learned that. I didn't know that about Concom. And I think other people, I have to think there's other people out there that don't know it either, that a lot of it is all about the water, whether it's freshwater, saltwater, stream, intermittent, or whatever. That's where Concom comes in. Just start with the basics. It's hard to write for other people when you all know what you're doing and you talk about it all the time. But to communicate it to somebody else, you need to see the other guy's point of view.
And if we better communicate to the general public, we might get some people stepping up and dropping a dime, saying, look what my neighbor is doing to my resources. And, yeah.
That's very true.
I mean, that's part of it, because most of our enforcement order comes from somebody who said, look what my neighbor did into the wetlands, et cetera. So, yes, a better communication could very well be a more knowledgeable public, which means we could very well help save our resources.
Wareham Week is always looking for articles. I mean, we get a lot of stuff in there that they'll put online or they'll put in print. Just try to get a look at the article before they publish it, because sometimes it's like, no, you got it backwards, don't print that.
Most of the time, they're right. It's just a matter of that, that occasional snafu. But, I mean, a short article about why eelgrass is important.
I could do that.
I thought so.
For some odd reason.
You want
Denise
scallops?
likes to walk in.
There's no scallops in Wareham because there's no eelgrass in Wareham. That type
Exactly.
of thing.
You know,
Okay.
those kind of things. Anyway, thank you,
Okay,
folks.
thank you. Is there anything else before someone makes that motion?
I have one thing that I'd like to mention. I met with the Cranberry Growers Association. I believe they might be of Massachusetts or New England. I'm not sure what their region extends to. They would potentially like to meet with the commission and give an overview of what their goals are, how they see the production of cranberries and the bogs going in the future, and just to give you all an update on.
And solar panels?
Yeah, especially.
I did
Dual-
have a
Solar panels are.
Dual-use projects.
I did have a conversation with them about dual use solar and cranberries, and their stance is that there's not enough data to support whether it's hurting or helping the growth of cranberries. The lack of, historical production isn't there yet.
Well, that was part of our argument when we were discussing some of the projects that have come before us. There's not enough information out there to tell us, is this really a good dual use?
Yes, and, they agreed with that, but their stance was the state of Massachusetts wanted to see an increase in solar, and this was one way that
And
they could get that.
We really don't have a problem with solar done properly.
Right.
I mean, we all understand that we need to go to something less detrimental. Okay, yes, solar is great, but it's got to be put properly.
I'm sorry, as Dave once said, you're better off putting to me anyway, I don't know if he said, I don't remember if he said it for the commission, you're probably better off putting a solar panel on top of a cave, on top of 195, not on top of a cranberry bog. Let's face it.
An update on the bylaws. You have permission.
Yes, so, well, I guess the funds haven't been actually secured. I think they still need to be voted on, but
Town
it's.
meeting, yep.
Yep, so it's, Derek has put in a request for a town meeting to approve $25,000 for the rewrite of the bylaw. I have started to interview a few consultants who are willing to take on that position, or that role of, rewriting the bylaw. After I get their bids back, I'll probably sit down with, Ken Buckland, the town planner, and whoever's giving us a proposal, and me and Ken will make a decision on the best course to go from there, so.
And you're taking notes as what part of our bylaw needs to be stronger?
I like to think of this as they're gonna take they're gonna take our bylaw, see what's been working well, what hasn't been working well, what court cases we've won, what court cases we've lost. They will also look at regionally bylaws in the
Okay.
area, and they will present us with something that is more up to date.
I was going to say a little bit more current than what we have.
Correct. So, and there are things that will be added, such as standards and definitions and, ways to, even as far down as ways to submit applications to the commission and what type of deadlines we have for new information on a hearing, just so, there's less of us asking for a continuance versus us, requiring a continuance for certain things.
Thank
So-
you. Anything else?
I have just one question about the bylaws, and that would be, just that notice question, I think, keeps coming up when there's more than one parcel owned in common ownership, and who's getting notice if the work is limited to one parcel. I just think we've seen that a couple times.
You had that issue with the boat marina
Yeah.
as to who was or was not notified because of the,
Right, when you have
Parceling.
more than one parcel abutting, and the work is limited to one parcel, but it's all, there's common ownership, and you're only notifying the abutters of the one parcel, but not the rest of the abutting parcels.
Right.
It's raised it seems to be raised over and over again, I wasn't noticed. So really being very specific about who gets noticed in that situation, I think.
Yeah, I
would be
think that
helpful.
is probably laid out in the notice of intent application on, what is the requirement and where it falls under the parcel specific to where the work is being done and the 100-foot abutter notification.
Yeah.
Which is something that could be put in an article so that people who are thinking that they're abutters would know why they're not getting notified.
We could definitely, bring awareness to that.
Correct.
Via Twitter or Facebook or Wareham
Or
Week
Wareham
advertisement. But from what I understand, the abutter notification law, or I say law, but what's required through the notice of intent, it it seems to be that people are more upset that they think the person who owns the property owns an entire, single lot versus, where the lot work is being done.
Right.
But
Okay,
Move to close the hearing.
Second.
wait, adjourn.
Moved, oh, we're not closing a hearing, oh my gosh. Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn at 8:50. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? We didn't do the half hour like you did last time.
No.